Time having arrived, I call the regularly scheduled meeting of the Brockton City Council to order. Will you all please join me in standing and saluting the flag? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilors, I was contacted by Councilor Councilor Nicastro and Councilor Azak. Councilor Azak is a family obligation and is unable to make it today, and Councilor Nicastro is under the weather. Mr. Clerk? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilors, before we begin, I would appreciate it if you would join me in a brief moment of silence. Over the weekend, we lost a committed volunteer in the city and someone who was a real, presence in the city. John Drzezinskis, who lives in the ward, and I've had a lot of time to work with him. And we've not always come down on the same side, but he truly cared about this city and really worked his hardest to give back to it. So if we could all take a moment. Thank you, councilors. Mr. Clerk.
Item number 1, acceptance of the minutes of the November 14th, 2022 City Council meeting.
Accepted and placed on file.
Item 2, we have a hearing. That the City Council confirms the decision by Mayor Sullivan revoking the appointment of Marceline Ulysse of Longworth Ave, Brockton, Mass. as a constable in the City of Brockton. Councilors, as I had told you today, this will actually take place. I would ask for a motion to postpone. This hearing will actually take place 2 weeks from tonight, so that we can notify Mr. Ulysse of the process for this revocation.
Second.
Councilors, the motion properly made and seconded to postpone this to the next City Council meeting. All in favor? All opposed? The item is postponed.
Item number 3, petition requesting approval, change of ownership / control and name change for the licensee representatives Robert Murphy, owner and principal, and Josephini, president, for Nature's Embrace, Inc., DBA Botera, 747 Center Street. Change of ownership control to Chirag Patel, Hardik Patel, Jack Patel, Mahendra Patel, and Indravardhan Patel, and a new business name to GTE Brockton LLC in City Clerk's office, October 25th, 2022. Postponed from the City Council meeting of November 14th, 2022. Hearing is signed for November 28th, 2022. All paperwork is on file.
Time having arrived, I declare this hearing open. Is there anyone here in favor? If so, please give your name and address to the clerk.
My name's Joe Feeney. I'm from 148 Sherrill Drive, East Bridgewater, Mass.
We're here as a petitioner. I mean,
right.
Sorry.
All right. Is there anyone else here in favor? Seeing none, I declare that portion of the hearing closed.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here in opposition? Seeing none, I declare that portion of the hearing closed. Councilors, questions? Councilor Farwell.
Just for the record, I assume change in name, but business is going to operate, same
Correct.
business plan, same
Nothing's really going to
plans.
change in the operation.
Basically,
Correct.
everything's remaining the same.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, gentlemen. So just for the council's knowledge, I understand that this matter was heard before the Licensing Commission, right there?
That's correct.
The Licensing Commission really has jurisdiction over holding a hearing and then making a determination to approve or deny the request. And it's my understanding at the Licensing Commission your request was approved, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And then just also the City Council's role in this process is just notification, right? And that's where some of my questions kind of arise as to the Licensing Commission holds a hearing and makes a decision whether to approve or deny. From my understanding of the ordinance, that approval or denial is relayed to the City Council as being notified of their decision. I'm just wondering for the clerk, I know our legislative counsel is not here today, but Does the city council also have affirmative duty to approve or deny a petition?
Correct. That is, in the ordinance that was passed, the city council is the final arbiter of the license, so it does need to be approved or disapproved by the council. So there are three bodies that have to approve the name, a change or a sale, and that is the CCC, the state board, the license commission here, and then after the license commission, if they had denied it, it doesn't come to us, but once they approve it, it comes to the city council for approval or denial.
Okay, and so as of today, like we did today, we actually hold a hearing on the matter. We would hear it as any other public hearing, listen to evidence and questions from the board, and then make a decision to approve
Correct.
or
If
deny.
you have any questions, as Council Farwell just asked, any attempted changes to the plans that were filed with this board, with this council several years ago, which would take more hearings, more information. In this case, it's strictly an ownership change and a name change, which does have to come to this board for approval.
Understood. I appreciate that, Mr. Clerk. And just, Mr. Patel, from my understanding, you currently manage this facility, is that correct?
correct. As of last year in December, I believe, I started engaging with Nature's Embrace directly, just because the previous owner was just health issues and other concerns have kind of arisen from since then. So I've just been in more of a management role. They are still the principals, but I just kind of help on a day-to-day operations only.
And so now from management to ownership, essentially?
Correct, yes.
Will this establishment still maintain the name of Boterra?
Correct. So the DBA will remain in Boterra. However, Nature's Embrace will cease to be on the actual license, and it'll be GTE Brockton LLC. But we will still keep the DBA as Boterra. Correct.
Understood. And just lastly, do you have approval from the CCC yet on this matter?
Yes, we received approval, I believe, back in October. I think it was October 20th or the 13th. I think it was one of the agendas. So, like, the CC meets once a month. So we were on the agenda for October, and they have approved it. It was a pretty rigorous process. We started the application back in, I believe, May, if not April of this year. So it was like a six-month process with them.
Great. And just lastly, that approval's on file here in the city, correct?
Correct. It may not be with the city clerk, but I did send it to Sylvia with the licensing department and just the approval notice. And I believe actually, yeah, with the application itself, I did submit the actual approval notice from the CCC as well. Correct.
Great. Well, I look forward to the continued operation of Boterra. It's an establishment in my ward. From all intents, from my hear, it's well-run, and so we appreciate the further investment in our community. So thank you, Mr. Patel.
Likewise. Thank you, Councilor.
No further questions, and if nobody else has one, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Counselor. As this is council, I think we just go to the question.
We don't need a motion.
Sorry.
Question is on approval,
Okay, understood.
if everybody's done
The energy
speaking.
is there.
If everybody's done.
Counselors, any other statements, questions? Seeing none, the question comes on granting.
A roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
D'Agostino.
Yes.
Farwell.
Yes.
Lally.
Yes.
Mendez.
Yes.
Minicello.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Tavares.
Yes.
Texera.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
9 in the affirmative.
The change is confirmed.
Okay. Thank you, Councilors.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item number 4, we have the petition of the Holistic Concepts, Inc., license change of 49% ownership on a retail marijuana license located at 1915 Main Street, Brockton, Mass., approved by the License Commission on November 17, 2022, pending approval of the Brockton City Council and the CCC. In City Clerk's Office, November 22, 2022. Hearing signed for November 28, 2022. All paperwork is on file.
Counselor Farwell?
Mr. President, with respect to this item, which is different from the prior one, as I understand it, this is just asking to add new owners to the current license. And those owners would only have a 49% interest, not a controlling interest. I spoke with the city solicitor today, and the indication was that we may not have to vote on this, that the License Commission has already acted, and now, as far as our participation is concerned, the ordinance has been satisfied. I would ask through you, Mr. President, because I understand that the clerk spoke with the city solicitor today, I would ask that he have an opportunity to address the council on this matter, and then I would have a motion after that.
Mr. Clerk?
Thank you. Yes, I did have conversations this afternoon, quite lengthy today, with the city solicitor. Our attorney is traveling for the holiday and not back tonight, so her belief, and as I've read it with her, I think that I concur, but I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to, that where this is a purchase of 49% and less than half, and the ownership is not changing, that there's a very good chance the council really doesn't need to vote on this, that it's simply a notification. Again, I'm not giving a legal opinion. I'm not an attorney. The city solicitor feels that way, and I would want our attorney to give us a written opinion. So it may not be something that we even have to vote on. If that is the case, I would postpone and not continue the hearing because I can't give a legal opinion. But I believe our solicitor is probably correct. As we read through it today, the purchase of 49% of the assets, however, does not constitute an ownership change. So in the ordinance, it talks about, in that case, probably only a notification to the council is all that's needed. Again, I'm not prepared to say that in a legal opinion because I'm not an attorney, but that's what the law department feels, and I believe when our attorney speaks with them, there's a good chance it'll be that she'll concur. But again, I can't give a legal opinion.
So, Mr. President, just coming back to this for a minute, and I won't make a motion to postpone yet if there are people that want to talk, but I'm very pleased that Attorney Rubin has clients that are willing to become involved in this business. We granted this license on July 16th, 2020. The business never opened. We did so on good faith, on behalf of the residents of this city, to generate jobs and to allow retail marijuana businesses to open. And here we are over 2 years later, and that has not happened. So the clients represented here already have a business presence in the city, and a good one. And if this has already been properly handled by the License Commission, in my opinion, we would not want to set a precedent and jump over that and do something that perhaps our legislative council and city solicitor believes we should not do. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rodriguez, followed by Counselor Thompson.
Well, Mr. President, one of the concerns that I have in here is because, as Council Farwell said, we did license this facility over 2.5 years ago, and it still has not operated or actually opened, to be honest with you. So my concern is that the 51% is still owned by the previous owner. So now what happens a month or two from now when this new 49% ownership decides to purchase an additional couple percentage points? What happens to that license? And that's why I think one of the things that we were so concerned with when we passed the marijuana ordinances is that we didn't want it to become a free-for-all in the city. We wanted to make sure that this body that is a direct representative of the folks in this community that don't have the voices in city government, but they do through us, actually have a say in what happens to marijuana. So that being said, I have a little bit of a concern in the sense because I see a lot of this flexing. It's almost like we went through this whole thing. It took us over 2 years to pass this ordinance. With name calling and people looking at us saying we're a bunch of idiots, bunch of this, bunch of that, to finally get this thing up to a level where some other municipalities are actually calling us and saying, hey, can we borrow your ordinance because it seems that you guys actually did what you're supposed to do to prevent a lot of the other Fall River fiascos and some of the other things from happening. But it seems that as we move into this thing, and again, I'm not against this process in a way in terms of opening this new facility, this facility on the south side that should have been open months ago. But I'm a little concerned that we keep coming back here with name changes, ownership changes, and the idea was supposed to be that if you pick up a license and you cannot operate the facility, you're supposed to give it back to the city so the next person in line could actually take a license. That's why there's a limitation on licenses, so that when someone is not able to do it, that they cannot renegotiate amongst themselves to do this, because that's not the presentation that was made to us. When we sat here, we looked at these businesses that came in and said, I'm able to do A, B, and C, and we gave them a license because they said they were able to do A, B, and C. But now all of a sudden, we're having these issues coming back here in a notification to, it's been approved by the licensing commission, when the final authority of the licensing rests with the 11 of us in this council. So this is the concern that I have, and I think we're opening Pandora's box here, because this thing is going to keep coming back. Every other meeting, we're having a situation where somebody comes in looking for a name change, an ownership change, and that was not the intent of this. This thing is, if you cannot operate the facilities, you give the license back to the city, and the city makes it available to the next person in line. And we do have some other folks in line that are looking for licenses to operate facilities here in the city. So that's the concern that I have. And I hope that, the rest of my colleagues in here would kind of hear this as well. And I know Council Thompson will say, we're all pro-business. We're all pro-business here. We want to make sure that the businesses are moving, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we do it the right way, that we're not sitting here going through these issues every other month or so because so-and-so can't operate it. If you can't operate it, you're supposed to give it back to the city so that the city can kind of give it to the next man up. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor. And I think the question you had at the beginning, I think, is something that our attorneys should be able to answer when we pick this up. Assuming
Motion to
Counselor-
postpone
well,
2
Counselor, one more Counselor.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. My apologies.
Counselor Thompson.
So, thank you, Mr. President. So I just kind of want to get my mind under how we're moving forward. If you said that this would be a notification process, then we act on it as a communication, and that's how we'd move forward?
We're hoping that this can be cleared up by the council's attorney. So we're waiting for Attorney Resnick to come back to give us her legal opinion on whether or not this is a communication that we will accept and place on file, or whether or not this is something we have to vote on. 49% is not a, change of control, and the initial owners are still maintaining ownership and control of the business. So technically, you could make the argument, or the thought is you could make the argument that the business is not changing its name.
Right.
It's not changing control. So we're hoping to wait and get Attorney Resnick's legal.
Understood. I mean, I think it's clear 49% ownership is not full control of the operation. But 2 questions, Attorney Rubin.
And I'm sorry, if you're going to open the hearing,
Oh,
the hearing's not open right now, you're just discussing whether to open the hearing.
okay,
So-
understood. Would the clerk know that if this matter had to be approved by the licensing commission?
License Commission approved it pending approval of this council, so we would have to probably change some, send it back to them for language change. But so if our attorney rules that way, it would then become a notification to us. It would not come back to you for a vote, and the License Commission would need to meet and just change their approval to approval.
Understood. And then secondly and lastly, I would also understand that the CCC would also require approval for this transaction.
Theirs is independent of what happens here, and I believe that this entity is on the agenda in December. The CCC doesn't post their agendas very early, so, but that's separate. No matter what the city decides, until the CCC decides,
Right.
makes a decision, nothing happens.
So, right, just so my concern, or I guess my statement would be that this matter is being reviewed by the License Commission, and it's also being reviewed by the CCC, so there
Correct.
are eyes on this type of transaction.
Yes, on the transaction.
Understood.
Correct.
Eyes on the transaction, and from what I understand, a postponement for legal clarification is not going to get in the way of a timetable if the CCC is involved. I know I can't ask the question. I'll aim that at the clerk, but that's my understanding.
Okay, understood. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Farwell, I believe you have a motion.
Motion to postpone for 2 weeks, the hearing and any further action on this matter.
Second.
Motion's properly made and seconded to postpone this to the next city council meeting. All in favor? All opposed? The motion passes.
And just as a point of information, I will get that decision from our attorney within the next day or two and make sure that all parties are aware of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 5, report of the real estate meeting for its meeting of November 20, real estate committee for its meeting of November 21st, 2022.
Accepted and placed on file.
Report of the finance committee for its meeting of November 21, 2022.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the mayor revoking the appointment of Marceline Ulisse of Longworth Ave, Brockton, Mass. as a constable in the city of Brockton.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the chief of police requesting acceptance of a donation from Harbor One Bank for $1,000 and Rockland Trust for $1,000. Both banks were generous in providing the necessary funds to ensure that the First Responder Community Jamboree on August 20th, 22 was a success.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the CEO relative to the same.
CFO, accepted and placed on file.
Finished business. Ordered that the common necessity and convenience of the inhabitants of the city of Brockton require the laying out and acceptance of Dorothy Road, extending from Boundary Street westerly, a distance of about 480 feet, more or less.
Councilor Farwell.
Mr. President, on item number 11 and number 12, I would ask that we waive the entire reading and refer to the roads to be accepted as public.
Second.
Motion is properly made and seconded. All in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you, councilors. Number 11 is ordered that the common necessity and convenience of the inhabitants of the city of Brockton require the laying out and acceptance of Dorothy Road. In City Council, August 22, 2022. Read and referred to the Standing Committee on Planning and Finance. Those reports were favorable.
Councilors, questions on adoption by a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
D'Agostino.
Yes.
Farwell.
Yes.
Lally.
Yes.
Mendez.
Yes.
Minicello.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Tavares.
Yes.
Texera.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
9 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Item 12, order that the common necessity and convenience of the inhabitants of the city of Brockton require the laying out and acceptance of Corolla Road, extending from Dorothy Road northwesterly. In City Council, August 22, 2022, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Planning and Finance. Those reports were favorable.
Question is on adoption by a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
D'Agostino.
Yes.
Farwell.
Yes.
Lally.
Yes.
Mendez.
Yes.
Minicello.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Tavares.
Yes.
Texera.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
9 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance of the Hazard Mitigation Plan from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. This plan will reduce the long-term risk to human life and property from natural hazards. In City Council, November 14th, 2022, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
Questions on adoption by a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
D'Agostino.
Yes.
Farwell.
Yes.
Lally.
Yes.
Mendez.
Yes.
Minicello.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Tavares.
Yes.
Texera.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
9 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Item 14, ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $5,000 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security 2022 Address Verification Program, AVP Grant, 2, Brockton Police Department 2022 Address Verification Program, AVP Grant Fund. These grant funds will be used by the police department to verify addresses of registered sex offenders, conduct investigations, and place into violation those offenders with valid addresses. There is no match required for this grant. In City Council, November 14th, 2022, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
Questions on adoption by roll call vote. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
D'Agostino?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Mendez?
Yes.
Minicello?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Tavares?
Yes.
Teixeira?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
9 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Item 15, ordered in accordance with the general laws of Massachusetts, Chapter 44, recommending that the City Council authorize the total proposed approval of the unappropriated estimated receipts of $243,616.20 from unappropriated estimated receipts, $237,317.95, to the Finance Department Finance Purchase of Services, $237,317.95, and from fiscal year 23 funds, $6,298.25, to public property purchase of services, finance purchase of services, human resources, HR employee benefits, law purchase of services, law goods and supplies, library purchase of service, mayor's office goods and supplies, police department goods and supplies, Brockton Parking Authority out-of-state travel. In City Council, November 14th, 2022, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
Questions on adoption by roll call vote. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
D'Agostino?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Mendez?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Oh, Minicello?
Yes.
Yes again.
Tavares?
Yes.
Teixeira?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
9 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted. Counselor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, in an effort to expedite the payment of these invoices, I make a motion for reconsideration in the hopes that it does not prevail.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded for reconsideration. All in favor of reconsideration? All opposed? Reconsideration fails. Passionately.
Ordered that the City of Brockton grants to 142 Main Historic LLC an easement over city-owned land identified as Assessor's Parcel ID 110-047 and alternate ID 17, commonly known as and referred to as 132-142 Main Street, for purposes of constructing and maintaining underground stormwater pipes over the subject land, and further that the City Council authorizes the mayor to execute the attached access and stormwater agreement revised, and to take other actions necessary to carry out the terms, purposes, and conditions of the same. The easement shall be granted as amended, whereby said easement shall be granted simultaneously and forthwith upon issuance of the subject building permit. Favorable as amended. In City Council, November 14th, 2022, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable. No, excuse me, that should strike that. That should be Committee on Real Estate. That report was favorable.
Questions on adoption by roll call vote. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
D'Agostino?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Mendez?
Yes.
Minicello?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Tavares?
Yes.
Teixeira?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
9 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Resolve, whereas the Human Resources Department is responsible for the timely, professional recruitment and screening of candidates for positions within city departments. Now therefore be it resolved, Director of Human Resources Sandra Charton and other such department heads as may be interested appear before a committee of the council to discuss the factors affecting recruitment of the best qualified candidates for career positions in city government. Provided further that Ms. Charton share with the council relevant information from other cities regarding candidate recruitment practices and policies. In City Council, November 14th, 2022, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
Councilors, question comes on adoption by a hand vote. All in favor? All opposed? The order is adopted.
Resolved, be it resolved that members of the Brockton Interfaith Community leadership team or their designees be invited to come before the Finance Committee to discuss blueprint for a Welcoming Brockton and to provide additional information regarding the event scheduled on October 2022, at the Joseph E. Plouffe Academy. In City Council, October 11th, 2022, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
Questions on adoption by hand vote. All in favor? All opposed? The order is adopted.
Ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance and expenditures of a donation in the amount of $2,000 from Harbor One Bank, $1,000, Rockland Trust, $1,000, to Brockton Police Department. These donations will be used to support the first annual First Responder Community Jamboree.
Councilor Farwell.
Mr. President, I would move that we suspend the rules, act on this evening, and that the clerk send a letter of appreciation to both banks.
Second.
Motion has been properly made and seconded to act under suspension of the rules and deal with this immediately. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Question comes on adoption by a
Roll call.
by a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
D'Agostino?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Mendez?
Yes.
Minicello?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Tavares?
Yes.
Teixeira?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
9 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Resolved, whereas land use and management through zoning ordinances have a direct effect on economic development and neighborhood preservation, and whereas the city hired the Collins Center and Barrett Consulting Group to conduct an overview of zoning issues within the city, and whereas all councilors and their constituents have an interest in the review, update, and application of zoning ordinances. Now therefore be it resolved, representatives from the Collins Center and Barrett Consulting Group be invited to a meeting of a committee of the council in January 2023 to discuss the scope, focus of the zoning review for which they were retained. A January 2023 meeting should allow sufficient time for the invitees to schedule an appearance and provide any materials to be reviewed by councilors.
That is referred to finance. Councilors, we have reached the end of our agenda. Are there any late files, moments of personal privilege? Councilor D'Agostino.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to announce December 14th, there'll be a Ward 3 ward meeting from 6 to 8 p.m. at the South Middle School cafeteria. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Clerk?
Just a reminder on behalf of Councilor Razak, the members of the Ordinance Committee, Thursday night at 6 o'clock, there is an Ordinance Committee meeting.
Thank you, Councilor. All right. That's the end of our agenda, councilors. We are adjourned.